TYT Sports, everybody. Ben Mankiewicz, Damian Carville. Damian, thanks for being here. So, are you a basketball? You're mostly a soccer fan. Do you watch any basketball come playoff time?
I do. Yeah, sure.
So last week, as good a moment as you're ever going to get in the NBA, a game that I may or may not have wagered on. I had the Pelicans plus 5.5, 20-point lead heading into the fourth quarter. But you know what? It wasn't even a little by little because it was still 17 or 18-point game with 5.5 minutes to play. And now we run those the sites that run those win probability charts. I believe I read that it was either 98.5%, or that was my temperature at the time, actually. So but it was 98.5 or 99.5% chance of victory for the Pelicans at that time. And then the lead started to evaporate. And then we saw Steph Curry hit this remarkable three-pointer. I mean, just what was so great about it was, first he took a more open three-pointer that wasn't even a three-pointer. It turned out his foot was on the line. He misses it. Great hustle. Draymond Green gets the rebound, tracks it down, gives it back to Curry. He takes the final three-pointer. He was unquestionably fouled. Unquestionably should have had a free throw. Makes this miraculous three-pointer. Essentially, as time expires and the game goes to overtime, Warriors win, they sweep the series. There is a tendency, to, as we talk about it, that Steph Curry, that was certainly a clutch shot. That was a clutch moment. And therefore, because we feel the need to extrapolate upon everything, that we can't really, to me, we can't just enjoy a moment for what it is. That moment has to mean something else in the world of sports. So Steph Curry is a clutch player. And I would say that Steph Curry is not a clutch player. I just think he's a great player, and he's a great player when there's 3 minutes to play in the second quarter, and he's a great player when there's 3 seconds to play in the fourth quarter. Do you think there is something that the great athletes have that make them clutch?
I definitely do.
You're definitely wrong.
I don't think they're necessarily born with it, but I think, I'm a big tennis fan, so...
this is a sports show, so take that outside.
So I'm a big tennis fan. Watching Roger Federer over the years...
By the way, you're a really good tennis player. I've played tennis.
Thank you. Yeah. It has been said that people would like to put a heart monitor on him and see that when it comes down to the crunch, 5-all in a tiebreaker, does his heart rate actually go up? And there's a sense with people like that, in my mind, that in their mind it is, this is why I play this game. This is why I train. This is why I practice. And in the mind of their opponent, so this not as much the case in a team sport. In the mind of their opponent is they've done this so many times. The person I'm playing against.
But okay, so what happened? Because in the last 5 years, he stopped winning.
Everyone gets old.
Okay, so it's just age. But I mean, if he had, look, I suspect that there are tense moments before the end, right? Sometimes you're tense.
Sure.
You recognize that you're trailing 1 set to none, and you're down 5-2 in a tiebreaker for the second set. You don't want to fall down 2-0. If for no other reason, then you're going to have to play 5 to win. But your odds, like that's a tense moment. And sometimes you think his heart rate either decreases from what it was or is just probably markedly lower than other people in the sport.
I do.
But you don't have any evidence for that. We're guessing, right?
Of course not. No.
I believe you guess, and we like that because it feeds the storyline. Because the announcers, many of whom are enormously talented and some of whom aren't, are so eager to perpetuate that storyline. You know, for years and years and years, we did it. We've done many segments of it here on TYT Sports, obviously because he's been hurt, not lately, about how clutch Kobe Bryant is. But all Kobe Bryant did was take shots at the end of games. Sure. And he made them actually at a lower rate than he made during the regular course of the game. Maybe because it was harder to draw a foul. Maybe because they knew he was going to take the shot and they overplayed him. But there was no evidence that he was clutch. But as soon as Kobe Bryant hits a three-pointer to tie a game with a second and a half to play, or gives them a lead, or with the shot clock winding down and they're up 1 with 6 seconds, he hits a three-pointer to wrap the game up. The tendency that we have as humans is to think, money, he's done it again. And the fact that at one point in 2013, he missed 13 straight game tying or take the lead buckets in the last 2 minutes, I believe, of the game. He's not a clutch player. If anything, he's worse. But I would just argue he's the same player he always is, which is a terrific player who takes a lot of shots. And that's it. And I just think we want so badly to believe it because the storyline is better. But there's very little evidence. There's some in baseball that there's certain guys do better, but that also might just be a statistical oddity, although some players show some propensity to do a little better when the pressure's on, but it may just be because they concentrate more.
I don't think someone is either clutch or they're not. So I think that's where it gets abused. I think in a given moment, when someone talks about how something happened, what went on in their mind, you could say that was a moment of someone just being what we would call in this country clutch, which is not a phrase we use in England. I think of...
What's the phrase you would... Docker?
We don't... Fired. We, so we I think back to, everyone's favorite royal, David Beckham, who...
Everyone's favorite royal. I was like, oh, Lorenzo Kane.
who I don't think over his career people would say, he was clutch, because, soccer doesn't engender it as much as say, basketball does, for sure. But there are a few things, there was a process of events that took place with David Beckham where it felt like when it came down to it, he knew this was to some extent his destiny. He's talked about he could not hear anything in a stadium of 67,000 people when he was taking a free kick against England, for England against Greece, to get England to the World Cup finals 4 years after he'd cost England the World Cup finals, according to what the media said. He was vilified more than any sports player I've ever seen.
So, but I mean, is that clutch? Is that he just made it? And I get it that focus is critical, and that a guy who couldn't focus, like, oh my God, this is such a big kick, I don't know what to do, is. But I don't think professional athletes who are in these situations have that happen to them much. We love it. We love winners and losers. We love clutch and chokers.
We do.
And for the most part, it's not true. Here's what that shot was for Steph Curry. That was a clutch shot. It was because they were down 3, and it was the last shot of the game.
Sure.
And he made it, and it was awkward, and he had to arc it, and Anthony Davis ran at him and hammered him afterwards, knocked him down. So that was a big shot. We can't... But Steph Curry makes big shots all the time. Very quickly, another NBA player with a great nickname, Big Shot Bob, Robert Horry, of the Lakers and Spurs and Rockets, who hit just big shots after big shots in the postseason. And there's a tendency to think of him as clutch because he wasn't a star player.
Right.
He was a solid role player, but in the playoffs, he hit a lot of big shots. But making 7 clutch three-pointers in the playoffs in 13 attempts, that sample size is meaningless.
Sure.
It's totally meaningless. It's great that he did that. And what we should say about Robert Horry is, man, Robert Horry hit a lot of big shots in the playoffs. Instead of then taking it one step further, which was Robert Horry had something special that other people don't have.
We don't say it of Derek Fisher with his famous shot against San Antonio with what,
0.4 or something like that, whatever with that. Yeah, and Derek Fisher, of course, who was a marginal player who was on, a little better. I mean, he was better than an average player. But won all those titles. He was on great team. B.J. Armstrong won all those titles with the Bulls, but we don't talk about B.J. Armstrong's class. Some guys have been incredible performers. Our executive producer, Dan Keston, talked about the Patriots, one of the examples here. Why do the Patriots always win? Why do the Clippers always lose in the end? The Clippers haven't been good enough to win in the end until now. And I would argue that even if they go ahead, and as we're shooting this on a Friday, the day before they play Game 7, even if they go ahead and lose Game 7 to the Spurs, it's to the Spurs. It's not necessarily a sign that there's something wrong with them. And the Patriots win because they've had Tom Brady for the whole time that they've won. And they have a great coach and a great quarterback, and they've maintained a remarkable degree of health to critical players. They've also been eliminated from the playoffs as the higher seed a number of times because they're playing other good teams. They happen to have won. They're great. But I don't think they're clutch. They're just great. Tom Brady is a great quarterback in the first quarter and the fourth quarter. But we remember John Elway going the length of the field. We don't remember the number of times John Elway took the ball for the first time in a game and led a 7-play, 80-yard drive where he hit a receiver and the Broncos took a 7-0 lead, because that's a dull story. All right. So there you have it. I think we've proven that there's no such thing as clutch. Thank you for agreeing with me. TYT Sports.